Welcome to Unlearning with Laura, the podcast where you get to rewire your mind, reclaim your power, and break generational cycles. I'm Laura Stiles, clinical hypnotherapist and mindset coach, and founder of The Mindful Generation, the place where parents come to transform their lives and live with more purpose and freedom. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by KARRI, a screen-free voice messaging device designed for families who want connection, safety and independence without giving children a smartphone. As conscious parents, we know smartphones are powerful tools, but they also come with pressure, distraction and risks that developing brains simply aren't built for. KARRI, spelt K-A-R-R-I, offers an awesome alternative, allowing children to stay connected with the people who matter most, while protecting their emotional well-being and their childhood. You can take advantage of 15% off the Messenger One device. Just use code MindfulGen15 at the checkout. Check the link in the show notes to find out more. But for now, let's tune in. Welcome to this week's episode. It's been a while since I've done a solo episode, and I'm looking forward to this because it's my first ever Q&A episode. So I recently put out a little story on my Instagram to ask my followers, what would you like to ask me? Ask it in the old DMs and I will make a note and answer any questions on this pod episode. So here I am. So I think I'll just dive straight in, and maybe at the end I might have a little chit chat with you guys. But here we go. So the first question that I was sent was this. Tried hypnotherapy on Spotify. Brain couldn't focus on the words. How do I get thoughts to quieten? I love this question because I get asked this quite a lot. And actually, a client recently said the same thing to me because I had shared an audio with her. And she said the first time she listened to it, she was really trying to focus on the words, and it was just before she was going to sleep. And her thoughts were racing around, as they do just before we go to bed, which is completely normal. And she was trying to switch off the thoughts and focus on my words, intently focus on the words. And I need to just let you all know that doesn't need to happen. You do not need to focus on the words. If you are going to sleep, or if you're listening in the day, whenever you're listening, to be honest, our thoughts always pop in and out. They pop in and out like little clouds floating in the sky, and then they pop off again. And if you are listening to an audio and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, there's a little story in this audio and I've just missed what she said there, it doesn't matter, because guess what? Your subconscious is always listening. It's like when you go to a party and from across the room, you can hear someone say your name. So you can, your subconscious is basically listening to many different conversations all at once. Probably all of the conversations happening in that room is what your subconscious has dialed into, but your conscious mind doesn't know that, and your conscious mind cannot keep up with that. So that's why if you do hear your name being said from across the room, your ears can prick up and you often then can dial in and you're like, oh, I heard my name, what's going on over there? So I don't think many people realise just how much power the subconscious really has. When you're in a hypnotic or deeply relaxed state, your conscious mind, which, you know, is your busy analytical to-do list part of your brain, will just wander. And that's normal. So it might drift off, think about dinner, or just lose track of the words entirely. And that's actually a sign that it's switching off, which is exactly what we want. So hypnotherapy doesn't work through your conscious mind at all. It works through your subconscious. And that one never switches off. It's always listening, always processing, even when you're asleep. Now, there has been some research into selective attention and subconscious processing, and it shows that the brain continues to absorb and respond to auditory input, even when the conscious awareness is elsewhere. So that's why people can learn during sleep studies and why background music affects our mood without us noticing. When your thoughts wander during hypnosis, your subconscious is still receiving every single word and every suggestion and every kind of shift in the tone of the voice. You don't need to concentrate at all. You don't need to remember anything. You literally just need to relax and just let go of the fact that your conscious mind is drifting. It literally means that you are probably going deeper than you think, which is a positive thing. You're going into trance, into that theta state, and that's what we want. So the only thing that I would say on this is you've just got to listen somewhere comfortable where you feel safe. Obviously, without driving, you know, I always say that. Don't be doing anything that needs your full attention. The key is listen on repeat. You know, it's the repetition. That's where the rewiring happens. So, if you are one of my clients or you have received one of my audios or you've listened to any of my podcast audios, the key is listen on repeat. Don't just listen once or twice and then say, oh, well, that didn't work. 21 to 30 days, that is usually the key, sometimes longer, depends on each person. But the more that your subconscious hears it, the deeper those new patterns embed. And that's when you start to see change. So it's pretty magic, isn't it? The subconscious mind is incredible, more incredible than people realise. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers the question. Oh, I've just thought of one final thing to say on that, because someone did say to me once, well, I just fell asleep. And I feel like every time I listen to it, I'm falling asleep. That's okay, because chances are you've probably just gone into a really deep trance. And again, your subconscious will be listening. If you have gone into a full deep sleep, again, that's okay. It just means next time you listen to it, you may not go into a full deep sleep towards the end of the audio. Like, that's why we always say, hypnotherapists will always say, listen for 21 to 30 days, because, there might be times where you fall fully asleep, but chances are it's just your theta brainwave state that is tuning in, and that's where the change happens, because that's when your brainwaves are going nice and slow, and it's when it's most likely to be taking in and rewiring and reprogramming when they are in that state. Right, next question is recent parenting moments where you've thought, oh, I've nailed this, or the opposite. I've had to really think about this one. Because I don't know if I can think of a very specific example of where I've nailed it, but a couple of things have come to mind. So I think I'll choose the one that I think is most easy to talk about on a podcast, and that is believing our children, believing them when they say something, and instilling the trust within them that they need from us to know that they are always going to be heard and seen and understood. Because I see it quite a lot where parents might say, for example, oh, so-and-so said this morning and they said that. And I thought, oh, you're just trying to get a day off. And oh, you're just trying to do that. And they often just don't believe their children because they feel like they're trying to pull their leg or, skive off, or whatever it might be. And yes, okay, sometimes kids might be trying it on where they're not physically ill, but for whatever reason, they may not want to go to school. And more often than not, I would say sometimes it can be emotional and, a fear or an anxiety or something like that. And I see these parents basically finding it very hard to access a sense of validation for their child and enough compassion to believe them. And it might be that maybe actually it's because they don't know how to access that because that was never offered up to them when they were younger. And I know what it was like, back in the day in the 80s, parents, often were just like, no, you're fine, go on, you're fine. But the thing is, a lot of the time there's a reason, every single form of behaviour and meltdown or tantrum or pushback from our kids is a form of communication, and it's coming from the nervous system, and there's something behind it, right? So like, for example, my youngest was off school recently for about a week. He was really poorly. We think it might have been scarlet fever. And I went to take him back to school. When was it? Monday this week. And I had said to him, look, we're going to get you back to school because you look like you're feeling better. You've got your energy back. You're eating okay again now. Your fever's gone, blah, blah, blah. And got to that morning and oh my goodness, he was beside himself, absolutely beside himself, crying, snot dripping everywhere. I was like, you've got to go in. You've got, like, really trying to encourage him. I was like, look, you've got this. I know it's hard. I think it's hard because it's a big change. You've had this time off and it might feel scary going back, and trying to obviously like talk him through it and coach him through it and giving him all of the love, but at the same time really trying to like get him ready because we were up against the clock. Eventually I just couldn't physically get him to use the toilet, couldn't physically get him to put his uniform on, and he was beside himself. And I thought, actually, do you know what? I'm going to go with my instincts here. He's not ready to go back. I need to emotionally prime him and prep him even more and get him ready to go back tomorrow. So I gave him one more day off. And to be fair, he was quite snotty. I don't think he was fully recovered. And I'm so grateful that my work allows me to, put the kids first, and I'm able to shift the diary if I need to. My clients also are so understanding, because they all have children themselves. So, there were a few times where I would say to clients, I have got a sick kid at home. He's on the screen. It's not ideal, but he may pop in. And, that's happened to my clients as well. They've had children pop in whilst I've been, trying to facilitate a call, and it happens. Life happens. Anyway, it was all fine. He needed that day. He really did need it to recover. He was still really, really tired. But I did explain to him, do you know what? Listen, we're going to go back to school tomorrow. I know it's going to feel really different. You might be feeling, anxious about it because you've had all this time off. You need to take it slow. Because he was saying, my legs are not really working very well. I don't know how to walk. Because, genuinely, I think his, muscles would have got really weak because he wasn't able to walk. He was in bed for so long. He did go back to school. He was tearful. I spoke to the teacher and said, I don't think he will be up for PE today because he's got, still not much energy. So it's essentially what I'm trying to say is I believed him. I was trying to push back. I was trying to say, oh, come on, you're all right. Get to school kind of thing with love and compassion. But at the end of the day, he wasn't quite ready. I believed him. I trusted that he was actually going with his needs, as in how his nervous system was feeling and how he felt. I always believe them. If a child says in the morning, I feel this, I feel that, I feel sick, I don't think that they're having you on most of the time. I actually think that if they feel sick, that feeling is true and real. I think that it may be caused by anxiety, it may be caused by their thoughts and their worries. And so a parent might think, but that's not real then. That's not real sickness. It's not like vomiting and diarrhea. But it's very real for the child, and that's the difference. For them, their internal sense of safety is being compromised because they are feeling genuinely sick. And yes, it might be caused from their mind, but it's still a very real feeling. So I hope this is making sense. But what I'm trying to say is I feel like I've nailed it when it comes to advocating for my children and believing that their needs are just as important as mine. And I'm also quite proud of myself for not allowing other people's outdated views to get in the way of my own instincts, because at the end of the day, we have our own internal ancient wisdom and maternal instincts. They're all deeply rooted within us. And if, for example, a kid is saying, I don't want to go to school today, I don't feel well, and they're crying and they're really kind of out of sorts, and you've got someone else in the vicinity saying, oh, they're all right, come on, it's not like they've got a temperature, just send them in. But deep down you think, maybe they could do with some rest, because sometimes children are emotionally burnt out. Sometimes there's so much going on in that curriculum, they are literally wiped out. And sometimes, there's various different reasons as to why a child literally just needs a mental health day off or something like that, just like an adult does. And I feel like, I think I'm doing well with advocating for my children, knowing when to instinctually decide that today is actually a day where they need to be at home. And I know that it's probably frustrating to listen to people who have that flexibility, as I do, to keep them off, because sometimes actually you may really want to keep them off, but you just don't have the flexibility in your work that allows for it. And that's frustrating. And I see you, I've been there in the past. And so what I'm really trying to say is that if our kids don't trust us with those little things, the little niggles, such as feeling a certain way and not being listened to and heard and validated, as they grow older, they are going to feel like they can't put trust in us, and they may not come and share the big things with us that they really need to be sharing with us when they're teenagers. And I didn't really share anything with my parents when I was a teenager, because actually that's a lie. I did share quite a lot, but some things I couldn't, because I just thought, we were raised as Catholics, and when you've been conditioned in a way that makes you believe that you must ask for forgiveness for your sins, and lying is awful, you must never lie. And by the way, I know that is obviously what we should be teaching our children, not to lie. But the problem is, I want my children to know that they can come to me and say something like, I hit little Johnny in the face today and I don't know what to do about it. The teacher told me off and it made me feel really sad. I want them to come and tell me that stuff. And I want them to come and tell me when they're 16, my mate tried to give me some drugs today and I wanted to have some, but I felt scared and I didn't know what to say. And, I want them to be open with this stuff because then we can help them to navigate those tricky situations, those brand new, quite scary, tricky situations, because that's what parents are for, isn't it? And I mean, I was off doing all sorts of things when I was a teenager. My parents had no clue. They probably suspected. But, if they got into any trouble, I want to be the first one that they call, knowing that I am never going to be judging them for it. Never, ever, ever. So, yeah, that was a really roundabout way of saying I want my kids to be able to be open and know that there's never going to be any corporal punishment, because hopefully it will never get to that stage because they've been able to be open. So I hope that answers the question. I feel like that was a really long answer. Okay, the next question that was asked was, do your programs have to be precisely 4 or 12 weeks? Oh, great question. Okay, so my 2 programs are my 4-week Awakening and my 12-week signature program, which is Rewire and Thrive. So the 4-week Awakening is the foundational level, like the foundations of the signature program. And if you do the 4-week program, you have the option to then continue to do the rest of the 12 weeks. And obviously, my clients are parents, and a lot of parents have, busy lives, children who get ill. They get ill themselves and all the things get in the way. So no, they don't have to be precisely 4 or 12 weeks. That is the amount of time that it would take if there was never any kind of like half-term holidays or illness or anything like that that gets in the way. But actually, more often than not, they take a bit longer because of holidays. So for example, I'm working with someone at the moment who is doing my 4-week program, and we are 6 weeks in because she went on holiday for a week. And then she came back and everyone got ill. So next week when I speak to her will actually be the 6th week that we've been working together. But, this is just how it works with most programs, I believe. So if you've never done any kind of container or program of coaching or therapy or anything like that, I believe that's generally how that would work for anyone who was facilitating these kinds of one-to-one containers. So, yeah, I hope that helps. Okay, next question is, rebrand looks great, website still looks old. Question mark. That's hilarious. That's from one of my friends. Yeah, you're right. Rebrand does look great. I agree. I love my rebrand. Shout out to Cara Bendon. Website is still being done, and it actually, fingers crossed, should be live either today or tomorrow. I'm recording this on Thursday, the 26th of March, and my VA messaged me earlier saying she's completed the changes that I requested and should be done. Yeah. So essentially, by the time this goes out, I think it will be live and looking all up to date and aligned with the new branding, which I'm so excited for. My VA is amazing. She's a WordPress expert, and I've been working with her for like 3 or 4 years now. But she has got a little baby, and I generally like to support mums in terms of if I need support with something in my work, accountant, marketing, anything like that, I will opt for a mum over anyone else. And I'm not saying that to be horrible to men. I love men, but I'm saying that because I know how ruddy hard it is when you are a female business owner who is also a mum. It's really hard to receive consistent income, juggle all the things, try and get work in around babies' naps and stuff like that. So shout out to my VA, Julia, who has a little 1-year-old, and she's been working really hard doing the website whilst nurturing her 1-year-old baby. And so I have been very patient with her, as we all should be with mums who are juggling all the things. So yeah, so that's what's going on with the website. Next question. Interested in attachment styles. Can you help? Yes, I can help. I bloody loves talking about attachment styles and the science behind it. So yeah, and there's a whole section in my program about this. So in pillar 2, I believe it is. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it's early on in my, so it would be in my 4-week and my 12-week program. There is a whole audio guide all about attachment science. And it's a big one because without the foundational work, which I believe attachment science is a part of the foundational work when it comes to conscious parenting, but not just in our parenting, actually. I think it helps in our relationships in general. I think without that, it's really hard to gain awareness of ourselves and like our different parts. And yeah, it's a really great way to just get curious about our own upbringing and why we are how we are. So attachment styles are one of those things that once you learn about them, you genuinely cannot unsee them. So, like I said, in all your relationships, and I'll give you a quick overview first. The theory, so the attachment theory was originally developed by a British psychiatrist called John Bowlby, and I think it was the 50s. It was later expanded by a psychologist called Mary Ainsworth, and her famous strange situations studies showed us how early bonds with our caregivers literally shaped the way we relate to the world. You can actually type into YouTube Mary Ainsworth and watch footage and look at the studies. It's quite interesting. But the 4 main attachment styles are secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganised. So a secure attachment style means that you felt safe when you were younger, you felt seen, you were responded to as a child, you're generally comfortable now with closeness, and you can regulate your emotions well and tend to have quite stable relationships. An anxious attachment style means your caregiver would have been inconsistent, so sometimes warm, sometimes not. You were probably a bit clingy, you wanted to seek assurance, maybe hypervigilant to shifts in other people's moods. And as an adult, this can show up as fear of abandonment, people-pleasing, or overthinking relationships. Then you've got the avoidant attachment style. This means that your needs were dismissed, or you were encouraged to be independent too early. You learned that needing people wasn't safe, so you shut down emotionally. And as an adult, this can look like pushing people away, struggling with intimacy, or finding it hard to ask for help. That's me, by the way. That one was absolutely me. Not quite so much now. I'm probably more secure now, but yeah. And then you've got disorganised, which is often linked to trauma or a caregiver who was both a source of comfort and fear. And this creates real confusion around relationships as an adult. So the important bit, and this is where there's hope for anyone who's like, oh my God, I'm one of those and I don't want it to be that one. And your attachment style is not something that is like stuck for life. You know, your brain is neuroplastic, so it can rewire, as you know, if you've been here a while. So through, therapy, hypnotherapy, conscious relationships, doing the inner work, inner child work, that kind of thing. Exactly what you're doing by listening to this podcast, or if you're one of my clients, you can move towards what is called earned security. And so essentially it's like reparenting yourself and breaking the cycle. Understanding your own attachment style matters a lot, especially if you are trying to do your best in your own parenting. Our attachment patterns are often unconsciously passed down, and so the most powerful thing you can do is to heal your own if you feel like you need to do a little bit of rewiring there. What's important, and what I do acknowledge and dive into in my programs, is your partner's style as well. So if you do have a co-parent at home and their style is different to yours, which it usually is because we tend to attract the opposite. And so if you've got, let's say, a anxious attachment style and your partner has an avoidant attachment style, it's really great for you both to just have a little bit of awareness around that and talk about it to each other as a couple. If you are finding that actually you clash a lot and it affects your parenting, or maybe you've just completely lost your spark and you really want to get it back, or anything like that, I do highly recommend the Gottmans, the psychologists. They're American psychologists, and they are really great with anything to do with trying to figure out your attachment styles and working on your relationship, especially as parents. So I hope that answers the question. It is such an interesting topic, and I do genuinely really love diving into that part of the program when we get to it with my clients, because it's always a real eye-opener, and it always helps with things like learning where we're unconsciously making decisions and where those decisions are coming from. Sometimes it can just be coming from the belief that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be abandoned. You might not consciously think that you're going to be, but it could just be such a deep-rooted belief because of your anxious attachment style that you really are making decisions based on that narrative that isn't true. And so, yeah, I hope that helps. Final question. Did you enjoy your month off Instagram? Yes, I did. I did enjoy my month off. I did a whole reel about it the other day, talking about, how we can gain extra time back in, at least an hour back a day, just by coming off of one of the social media platforms, or the one that we're at least most addicted to, which for me was Instagram. And yeah, it helped a lot. It was lovely. Really nice to not feel pulled to my phone. In saying that, it was quite hard in the beginning. I missed it because there's a lot of lovely people on my work Instagram account. Everyone's lovely, like-minded. And I was like, oh, actually, I'm missing these lovely people. But, to have that break was a really welcome change for my brain. It was a real dopamine reset. And it was lovely to feel more fully present with the family, especially my boys. I was also, prior to the break, I was getting fed so much stuff to do with the Epstein files and all sorts of the world is a dark place at the moment, but I don't want it to feel like that in my mind, because I feel like collectively together as humans, we need to stick together and just try to raise our vibration and not allow the dark stuff to take over, because I do genuinely feel like we are being pulled into two different camps, and they're trying to almost like pit us off against each other. And although it can feel scary, World War III, meningitis, all of this stuff that's going on at the moment, it's great to just actually switch off from it, be in our own little bubble, and don't allow fear to be all consuming. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I want to stay informed, but I'm not going to let it be all consuming. And so I've retrained my algorithm. It's full of lovely, happy, lovely, important things. The things that are meaningful and that I need to be aware of, but also I don't want to be reading about satanic rituals and cannibalism every day. No, thank you. But also, I just want to say that if it gets to a stage this year where the government are telling us to go into lockdown again, I just want to say, last time this happened, so much went on, so much money was wasted, no one was held accountable, and it was a bit of a compliance test for us humans. And, test and trace, back in 2020, test and trace cost £37 billion of taxpayers' money, and it just merely ceased to exist 3 years later. That's money laundering, isn't it? I'm just saying, know that you have got your own human rights. Know that you've got sovereignty. Know that we are in a very interesting time, and I don't want the systems to be controlling us in the way that they got away with 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So, just a reminder, we need to stick together as humanity and not allow them to pull us apart from each other and divide us, because that is what is going to happen. It's going to continue to happen more and more, I think. So let's just remember, lead with love, compassion, prioritize our children, and I think it will all come right. We're going through a very interesting transition period, and I think we're kind of entering this new age. And anyway, I'm going to stop talking about all of that, because it just sounds, I know some of you will be thinking I sound like a conspiracy theorist. Fair enough, I probably do. But at the end of the day, my priority is ensuring that the conscious parents on this earth are happy, fulfilled, living a joyful life, feeling like they've got autonomy, not feeling like they are suppressed from the powers that are controlling them. And it all ties in with one another. So it's hard to sometimes run my business and talk about just the coaching and hypnotherapy and where I can support without actually talking about the power structures, because the problem is women and mothers are still oppressed, especially, the motherhood penalty, the gender pay gap, the state of maternal care, all of that stuff. It's hard to do this job without getting political, because it's all linked. So I'm going to stop there, because I am waffling a lot, but it's all important stuff. But I really hope that this Q&A has felt helpful. I really hope that you have found some value in it. And I was going to have a little chat at the end and a little life update, but actually I need to do the school run now, so I'm going to go. But one thing actually, I have got a really great promotion on at the moment. It's for the entire month of March. And the whole point of it was for Mother's Day and also to celebrate International Women's Day. And it's for my Morning Mastery Toolkit bundle. So it's a bundle of 5 different powerful resources. So there's audios, there's a PDF guide, there's various different things, all really brilliant. And they were created because I was finding mornings really, really stressful. My children were hard to get out the door. It was hard for me to not lose my shit. And so I created something for myself. So tried and tested on my own kids. And then I asked others to test it with their kids, and they said it was incredible. So I started selling it, and it's really good. I've had some brilliant results and lovely words of feedback from clients who have bought it. It's usually £77. There's a huge 80% off, so it's £15.40 at the moment. I will put the link in the show notes. It will transform your mornings. And obviously the mornings are a very important part of our day because they set us up for the day. So if you have a morning that doesn't involve all of the usual stress, that all that cortisol that's flooding our system before we've even left the house or got to work, it's not conducive to a, happy day ahead, a happy day at work. So I created this with love. It's great, and it's on offer until the end of March. So check out the show notes and you can buy it there. Thank you for listening. Please do like, follow, share, subscribe, do all the things. It really helps me out. And have a great rest of your week ahead. Bye.